Welcome to the OC. I'm Phil. This is my co-host Corey, and we are Ordered Chaos Podcast. And what are we talking about tonight, Corey?
Tonight we're talking about the Hatman, not to be confused with the Man in the Hat,
No,
or the Catman, or the Scatman.
The Scatman,
Yeah,
or the man in the yellow hat.
Yes,
with
that's
Curious...
the one that hangs out with Curious George. Yeah,
what Curious George was one of my
or the
favorites.
Cat in the Hat.
Oh, or the Cat in the Hat. Yeah, that was not a great movie. That movie sucked. Have you ever seen it? I watched it with the kids. I was like,
right.
That was horrible. Mike Myers is like, oh my God, what have I done? My career just took a shit.
The book was painful enough to get through when I was, I don't know, 4.
I love the book. I like reading the book for the kids. And now they're banning them. Did you know that? That was just in the news.
Oh.
Yeah, there's like 6 Dr. Seuss books that are being banned due to racial and controversial language.
It's I think it has more to do with depictions, but yeah, now they're not wrong in the sense that those are outdated depictions, but it's also.
Well, look at Disney, like the Blackbirds. There's so Car Baby. Like, what the fuck? You look back now.
So on Disney, you'll see some of the movies. They'll give you a warning to say, hey, this contains outdated depictions of blah, blah, blah. And
well, Disney was a known anti-Semite. He was racist. He was like, I don't believe in racial marriages. I don't, like, it's documented. There's like no question.
Walt was not a friend of the Jews. That seems to be documented, or at least it's made fun of constantly.
Yeah, Jews, blacks, you name it. Yeah, pretty much didn't like any of them, But but they were great books for my kids. I don't know. I didn't view them as racist, but good old Disney. Anything else in the news you want to talk about?
AstraZeneca.
Oh yes,
links back to our previous episode. Well, our very first episode.
Yes, it's new. And what do you know about it? It's dangerous, right?
They've linked it to blood clots, a deep vein thrombosis, but it's linked like tangentially. So I think the WHO has officially said it's okay to use now.
I just read that they've decided, well, the WHO's been like, oh yeah, just use it. It's good. And but like you have Germany, you've got France and a bunch of these other European countries, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna put this on hold for a minute.
But Canada's not. So
Canada is not. However, I think, is it still the warning of over 65?
No, we've officially issued guidance, I think recently, that you can give it to people over 65. Take the shot you get. This is basically the advice we're being given. Whatever one you're offered, take.
That's right. Yeah, because people are, and that was in the news too, that people are saying no. They're like, mm-mm. And to be honest, I mean, I would be a little nervous. I don't know. I'm sure probably take it because I'm not in a risk group.
The one good thing about the age group I fit into.
What do you mean you?
Well, you fit into it too. So the good thing about the group we're in is neither of us are frontline workers, right?
I look
our age
younger.
We're not going to get it anytime soon.
No, we're
plenty of test subjects.
We are the bottom of the barrel in terms of and kids. I didn't know this. I thought everyone would get the shot, but anyone under 18, they don't get the shot.
So that has to do with they never tested it on them. So I can't blame the drug companies for being a little hesitant to go off. And
so Moderna, though, is testing it on children in Canada. I heard that on the news today. So I was like, So Canadian children, there you are. You will be our new test subjects. And we're going to stab you with needles. It's all good. Kids, don't be afraid.
I wonder how you sign parents up to that.
Yeah, right. I'm like, there's no fucking way you're touching my kids with any of that shit. I'll take the chance of them being asymptomatic with COVID.
Well, the worst problem is the fact that with these tests, right, you go off and you might be in the control group or the placebo group.
Right.
So in one case you get it, the other case you don't get it, but we didn't tell you didn't get it, so you didn't get immunized.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to do it, but there'll be people that'll sign up, and they'll probably do a paid little paid thing where it's like, hey, guess what? You'll make this much money if you just sign your kids. There's some lunatic mom out there with 8 kids going,
something's wrong.
How much is this? Oh my God. Mama's buying a new pair of shoes. Yeah. So controversy, who knows? But back to Hatman.
Correct.
All right. Let's describe Hatman to the
Let's
audience.
unpack this.
Let's unpack Hatman. And I think we should let the audience know that this is our second attempt at making. I think Hatman was involved in the destruction of our first episode of this particular conversation.
Because of your background, I couldn't tell if he was standing there, but I was pretty sure I saw a shape.
I'm pretty sure something grabbed me by the ass and just held on tight. And I was like, I'm not looking. Corey,
what's your hound's dog's name? What's the name of your hound?
My hound is
Maggie.
Maggie May.
Maybe it was Maggie May coming up.
Oh no. Well, maybe. I don't know. She is lovable. Not usually that lovable. He's an apparition. He's a black, and when I say black, like before, you corrected me.
This was funnier in the previous one.
Yes, this is a dark, shadowy entity that is often visited in the evening. It's during sleep. Someone wakes up and they see.
Traditionally, the bedroom is. It seems
bedroom or where you sleep, right? You sleep in a bedroom. That's typical.
If you're in the doghouse, you might be sleeping on the couch downstairs, but
most people. And the doorway is a really common one in a corner. So, and depending on where you're from, there's different depictions of what Hatman looks like. Right?
The cool part about this is there's different depictions, but the consistency is it's a tall guy in a hat.
Almost always the same.
That's consistent. Might be a different hat.
And I had no idea there's thousands of eyewitness reports of this.
There was a site, by the way, called the Hatman Project that actually tracked this. I clicked on it recently, probably not the smartest thing, and it said everything got blown up. I was redoing it and I've lost everything, but don't worry, it's coming back.
Just like our video. Our video was just total sound and video problems, and strange. So we're doing it again.
Yes. So if this shouldn't seem stilted, folks, but if you notice something, please let us know.
In the comments, like and subscribe. Don't forget that.
That's like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. And our subscribers are going up. We love that. That's great. And our comments. Any comments from all sorts of folks. He watches you when you sleep.
Like Santa Claus knows when you're awake.
The tooth fairy. Things to creep
tooth
me
fairy
out.
know when you're awake?
I don't know.
Did you ever see Darkness Falls?
No. Is it the vampires? Oh no. Darkness Falls. I'll have to check it out.
Or I don't know if she was actually the tooth fairy. She collected teeth.
Well, there's a few.
It was pretty creepy.
Some
really good movie.
Killers that used to do that too. Back to Hatman. So he watches you. He sometimes hovers over your body, right? And
yes. So and you've seen in history where they've talked about the whole on your chest, incubi sitting on your chest, sort of over you.
You mentioned before the incubi and the succubus.
Yeah.
Succubi and incubi. So one is male, one is female.
Correct. The Hatman falls into the incubi category because my understanding is the male version and succubi is the female version.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was interesting, like I'd said about different hats. So like when you see witnesses that are from the European area, like it tends to be more of a top hat or a boiler or something more along that lines. And then when you get into more of the North America, it tends that tends to be more of a fedora or a Stetson or a flat top, hat.
And it's not just the hat, right? It's also the clothes themselves, right? So it's there's a cultural representation going on here, a perception thing.
So Europeans tend to see more of a Victorian era tall collar or very straight. Yeah.
Something Jack the Ripper would be wearing.
Yeah, yeah. Where what I noticed was most of the the North American stuff was basically more like dusters and trench coat, like sort of a more of a plain kind of duster. But almost all accounts, except for very few, describe no face, sometimes red eyes, and sometimes a sinister smile.
I've also heard one where they've talked about, I heard a couple that talked about a pocket watch.
Oh,
a gold pocket watch, which again would stand out against a shadowy image. So
it could be. Yeah. I mean, apparently the darkness is so dark that any darkness around this aberration or apparition, sorry. I don't know what an aberration is, but
it's an aberrant apparition, I guess.
Maybe. I don't know.
It would be like a squid that's a shadow. Cthulhu. All praise Cthulhu.
Cthulhu, skirt, Cthulhu. Dark fellow. I don't know. But yeah, so they're darker than their surroundings and they stand out.
So there's a color called Vanta Black.
Oh.
Ever get the chance, look it up. It is essentially when you paint something with this, and it uses, I believe, I would say carbon nanoparticles.
Oh, okay.
It's blacker than black. Like you paint something with it, it's like the old cartoons where you see a hole in the wall. It's because it's such just
really
black.
It's so black. Yeah,
they've got some pictures. If you get a chance, take a look at you Google Vanta Black and tinfoil, and they've painted some crinkled tinfoil with it. Okay. And you'll see this completely crinkled tinfoil, and then you see this what looks like a hole in it.
Oh, because so there's no ridges the light can't escape.
There's nothing that comes back to your eyes, right? That's how light, our vision works, right? Light reflects off, and we see black as the absence of anything else.
Well, as we started doing car wraps and different things, working with print, because I do a lot of print, black is there is a lot of different shades.
It's a slimming color.
For some. For some, not so much.
The Hatman looks very, very slim. Tall and slim.
Very tall. I mean, the reports were that he was like 6 feet tall, as the shortest, anywhere between 6 and 8 feet tall.
So I've heard as high as 10.
He's 10. He must have high ceilings. Must be a cathedral ceiling. Average roof or height of a bedroom would be probably 8 feet on most homes, I would think.
Yeah, I think.
But they're large. And what's that?
I think that's standard, right? Well, 8 to 9 feet ish.
Yeah, because wall studs are 8 feet, right? So you typically have a couple inches. Then you have drywall, and now we're Bob the Builders. Welcome to the OC building. Need a home built? Call us. We'll help. We won't be good at it, but we will help.
That's what Melissa says. She says I'm not handy. Like I re-roofed a shed. How's that not handy?
Right. So what if it leaked? So
it did not leak. It was fine. It's just Melissa has the idea that if handy is you're able to build a house. I'm like, I could build a house. You wouldn't want to live in it for a long term, but
this is that. Even hobos build houses out of cardboard and bubble gum and whatever they can get their hands on. Handy is I guess it's a mindset. Yeah. So let's see. So he's been called a lot of things. Some of the big ones are time traveler.
Right. Time traveler, a ghost, a shade, interdimensional.
Interdimensional beings. Alien. Right. Alien's a big one.
Apparently that is key to a lot of the cases of the Hatman alien abduction.
Yeah, but the witnesses don't claim that though. They're saying they don't. I don't know.
It's tangentially, is that the word, related to the scientific phenomenon that's associated with the Hatman / shadow people.
Right. Yeah, we'll get into So death. That's the other one. Death. Like the Grim Reaper type shit. There's a big debate whether he's good or evil. I don't know.
Consistently, it seems neutrality is the thing, but nobody ever feels good in the Hatman's presence.
Well, I think, and you've had a personal experience with this, which we will get into.
Which is why we're talking about this episode.
Because I had no idea what the fuck this was.
This is exactly like the last episode. I had no idea what the Montauk Project was, but Phil is the unknown Montauk boy. So he was talking about his personal experience.
Right. No, we're not getting into that. We're not even going to. Montauk is dead to us now. Watch it though and subscribe.
Watch it and comment.
Yeah, feel free. Watch us muddle our way through the Montauk Project. But yeah, so yeah, there is that debate. But yeah, some people feel calm, some people feel nothing, but I think most people will be scared. I know if I saw, if you see this thing standing in your doorway, I would be scared. I'd be like scared to the point of like, what the fuck? And I got to do something.
Exactly. Regardless of any emanations coming off this individual, right? Or psychic manipulation, whatever, you'd be like, holy crap, that's not my wife. I have no idea who this tall person is standing in my doorway looking at me while I sleep. Because
I think you're not going to think first thing is like, I'm not going to rationalize. My first, like, open my eyes. Oh my God, that's an intruder. That would be, I think, 99% of the people. There may be some real hardcore paranormal guys out there that are like, oh, hey man, you're Hatman, aren't you? Like, I don't know, perhaps, but I think the vast majority of human beings would be, afraid.
I would feel fear in the presence of the Hatman, and I can get that. Now, you talk about controversies. One of the other controversies about the Hatman is he something separate or is he a type of shadow person?
Yeah, and that's a good question because and the shadow people is a huge thing onto itself.
Massive. That's a podcast on its own. Like, look up shadow people.
It is, and there's a huge history of shadow people. I'm not sure where, like, it goes way back. Like, how far back?
600 BC is the earliest in Egypt. I see references to the shadow people, like they call them the Calibut or Calibut or something.
Yeah, like scary shit, right? Like, and it goes way, like, so obviously, if it's that far back, it's gone back as far as human beings living in caves and throwing stones to kill animals. It's just, so there's got to be something to it, right?
Collective paranoia, collective superstition, who knows? But same arguments that we apply to, is the Hatman a demon, interdimensional traveler, time traveler, whatever. You could actually apply all those to the shadow people as well. What are they?
Right. Now, what I did read about shadow people, because I didn't dive too deep into shadow people. I was like, I don't want to, spoil my brain for Hatman. I want to kind of keep them all to myself, But shadow people tend to be more, they can be seen other than, nighttime. Like the Hatman is very, very specific when it comes to it's at night or it's during someone wakes up to see.
And that's the part that's kind of terrifying, is the consistency in all the stories, whereas the shadow people stories are all over the place.
They're all over there. It can be anything from I was driving and I was like something. But yeah, so, and they tend to not have any real shape. They're not
kind of indistinct,
general
right?
State.
They tend to be kind of indistinct. Like, you might see a humanoid shape, but you can't necessarily make out any details.
And they're drifted. They're moving through, like they're moving in different, areas and patterns. There may be more than one. There's all these stories. So I tried to stay away from that to focus more on. But one thing that was difficult was that Hatman, because the stories are so alike, like they're so alike, there's not a lot of variation. It tends to be, and we'll listen to your story in a bit and kind of get what your feedback was, but I have a feeling your story is going to be very similar, also because I've heard it.
That's right. Yeah. Again, second time we did this, folks. The first time episode. We're blaming Zoom officially or the Hatman.
Or the Hatman. It's one of the two. I'm going to go with Hatman because, well, I can. Oh.
We'll put something in the background. We'll have it fade in.
So some of the claim that he feeds off negativity, which in this world, holy fuck, there's no shortage of food. There is negativity everywhere. So
particularly the last year.
Man, there should be like thousands more sightings of Hatman, just based on COVID and all the shit that. Yeah,
they're more concerned that he's not wearing a mask. That's what's terrifying about it. It's, oh my God, there's this guy standing. Like, where's your mask? Socially distance, bro. Socially distance. He's over you. He's not wearing a mask and he's close to me.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't think Hatman gives a fuck.
Well, it's funny about that. I was watching some movies and that, and it shows how just the situation you're currently in affects everything you do. I'm sure. Like, those people are awfully close.
Yeah, I know.
They're not wearing masks.
Weird.
Rambo, put your mask on.
Oh, well, John Rambo doesn't use masks, Corey. That's John Rambo.
John Rambo.
You don't know what he's been through. Poor John Rambo. It's an omen of bad things to come.
Yeah, I've heard the omen thing. I've heard the feed on negative energy thing. I've heard
fear.
Like
Monsters Inc.
Like monsters, sure. Like
right.
Like Scully.
You and I are like Mike and Sully.
Like Mike and Sully. That's right. That's us.
We can go out for Halloween.
So there was one thing I was reading about where somebody was taking a picture. Now this is where it was sort of more of a shadow person thing than a Hatman thing, but they said it was the Hatman in the picture.
For sure.
This fellow was taking a picture of three women, and you could see in the picture, not that I could find the picture, so they said you can see a shadowy figure with a hat placing their hand on one of the women's shoulder, and like 3 days later, she died.
Oh, yeah, and
I think it's
there was a lot of accounts of people saying on their deathbed that they were visited by something similar, right? So, I mean, who knows? Or maybe it's just they're on their deathbed and
synapses are slowing down. Yeah. Things are. You're going to see also the drugs are kicking in. A lot of stuff going on.
A few days before my dad died, in the hospital, he says to me, I come in and I mean, I had no idea. I mean, he was fairly stable at that time. And he says to me, well, he was here to see me. My dad was pretty lucid. Like he didn't lose his mind. He wasn't, for that, but he says, Welly was here to see me. He had a little visit and, I'm like, Uncle Welly, and he's like, oh yeah. And I'm like, he's been dead for a long time, Dad. And I would talk to him like my grandmother had Alzheimer's, so I would have if she had said something like that, I would, oh yeah, that's great. But it was my dad, so I'm like, Dad, and then he just kind of looked at me like, oh yeah, well, that's right, as if, oh, I sound crazy, so I'm just not going to say anything. And I often think of that because then 2 days later he passed away, and you go, that's fucking weird.
I think there's an awful lot of stuff, and that's where when you look at a lot of these sightings, they talk about the idea that being a spirit, being something, right?
Yeah.
But it's the consistency of the Hatman that's the frightening part.
For sure. Well, I mean, yeah, obviously. But you kind of go, well, is it the body's way of sort of preparing itself for death? Does it know before, everybody else does? Do we know? Who knows? Well, I guess we'll all find out. But,
it's a journey we all must take, as Gandalf said.
Yep. Right. And some is easier than others. Maybe it was I don't know. Gandalf the Grey, or I don't know.
I think it was the White at this point. He was relating to one of the hobbits, Pippin or Merry, about how it's not a terrible thing to die. I mean, he came back as Gandalf the White, so he did okay.
He did all right.
I don't think the hobbits are coming back as, Frodo the Brown.
No. Frodo the less hairy feet, whatever. I don't know. So some of the science behind this, and I hate to be a bummer about it, but we have to talk about the science. A lot of the witnesses talk about being paralyzed, so sleep paralysis.
So that's the A number one scientific explanation of the Hatman. Again, doesn't explain the consistency of the Hatman.
Right.
But they keep talking about, they say sleep paralysis, right? So for those who don't know, sleep paralysis is what it sounds like. You're paralyzed. Now, your body naturally disables your ability to move when you're dreaming because you don't want people acting out their dreams. And if you do, if you don't do that, what happens is sleepwalking.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty important. Yeah.
That's very important, right? You don't want people going off acting out their action hero dreams.
Kicking, punching, scratching, biting. Yeah.
Melissa actually smoked me in the back one time. She did these little rabbit punches, and Jesus, crab cakes. Oh, God.
I bet you it was totally by accident.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's right.
What'd you do that day? Do you remember?
I'm sure there was something in the bank that I had done.
Yeah.
Now, but sleep paralysis is the idea that you wind up waking up, but you haven't regained full mobility yet. So you're awake or alert-ish, but you haven't regained your mobility.
Yeah, and it's your body's way of protecting itself, right? I mean, it protects you from like acting out these things. So now, and I remember, one of my favorite comedians, Mike Birbiglia, he has to sleep in one of these blanket chambers. He's
a big snuggie. He has to wrap himself in a snuggie.
It's like a sham wow. Yeah. It's just this giant encapsulating thing. And he wears mitts to stop himself from scratching his face, but it prevents him from getting up and moving around because whatever part of his brain that controls that is basically doesn't function. And there's a number of people that have this disorder, right? So you have these people that are quite literally acting out their dreams, and it's very dangerous. Like he could walk out in the traffic. He's unaware. And I think when the last time we did this recording, I talked about my brother David, and we would find him all over the place. He sleptwalked much of his youth to the point where my dad had to actually like sleep in the same bed. Like he stayed there with him. Like, I know it sounds weird, but he had no choice because he would just get up and he would go to the kitchen and try and make like a bowl of cereal or, the old man, we had a wood stove. Like we're like, what if he tries to open the wood stove,
Now, the cool part about that, when people do those things, you always wonder, are they like perceiving, or is it simply they're acting out the dream, which, by the way, happens to overlay the current reality, right?
Yeah.
I've had this happen-ish. I was coming off shift I remember it was a really like a long, like a 14-hour shift overnight. I'm driving home on the Queensway, driving, and I'm just remembering keeping pace with this car in front of me. I may have actually drifted off for about 15 seconds.
Oh, wow.
But still kept driving, like, because thinking and kept my distance with this car, imaginary. And I opened my eyes and the car's not there. I'm like, oh, Jesus.
Oh, yeah. And it's very scary. I mean, had to drive a lot for jobs in the past and stuff. And man, I used to travel with these guys, and we'd have to drive from where we live in North Bay to Cornwall. And we would do this every weekend. We'd work all day and then drive home from Cornwall. And this guy would drive behind me that I worked with, and he'd honk the horn because sometimes I would actually drift. He would see the car starting to drift a little, and he'd fucking honk and be like, "I'm like, I'm good," And there was a couple times where I had to pull off. I was just so fucking tired. Like you almost start playing games with yourself. You're like, okay, you're gonna just close your eyes for 1 second. You're gonna go back and close your eyes for 1 second.
That's actually one of the other scientific explanations for the Hatman / shadow people sightings is sleep deprivation, particularly in the context of methamphetamine addiction.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah. Okay. So if it turns out if you do a lot of uppers, you have trouble sleeping at times, and you start to go crazy.
Oh,
yeah, you'll start to see things. So,
isn't there a movie called Insomnia? Wasn't that like Al Pacino? I don't know.
I remember The Machinist. That was the one with Christian Bale. Was it The Machinist? It was The Machinist. Christian Bale. He lost like
skinny. Yeah,
super. But he didn't, and that was because his character wasn't sleeping. I wonder if he saw shadow people.
He must have saw something.
He was a skeletal. He was almost a shadow person himself.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Yeah, it was like, so he's done some extreme stuff where he's gained weight and he's lost. Well, so was like Tom Hanks. Remember the movie Castaway?
Yeah.
He lost like 80 pounds. He ate a handful of rice and some fucking beans every day.
Matthew McConaughey did the same thing for the Dallas Buyers Club.
Oh, right. Where he was that mustache guy. He looked like he was skeletal.
Yeah. And that was because I think his character had AIDS or something in it. Anyway.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Sleep paralysis. That's one of the key things that back to topic. Rabbit hole. I had a manager who used to say what you would do whenever a conversation went off track, you'd scream rabbit hole. And then people would sort of pull back and say, oh, I guess we got to start talking about what it is. So sleep paralysis.
Better than butthole. You know what I'm butthole.
You had to go there. See, I made a pun even.
Right.
So sleep paralysis is a parasomnia. It's similar to other sleep disorders, right? Mm-hmm. And it's something that they've linked to the idea of the Hatman, specifically the Hatman.
Yeah. So, the parasomnia, that's the sort of the catch-all, right? Of
it's disorders. Nightmares, night terrors, sleep, all those things fall into that.
Yeah. And I read about how you can have REM sleep, but still the body be kind of conscious, right? You're in that almost in between.
So if you were to look at your EKG or ECG, I think it's like the electroencephalic brain. I used to know what it stood for. You could it would look like you're awake when you're in REM sleep.
Yeah, well,
it would look like they would know you're not, but they would look at it and say, it looks like you're awake.
Yeah, and there was something else I found really interesting, and I remember we talked about it. I went to the sleep clinic. So before I go into the sleep clinic experience, the term is, or there's a belief that your brain, if you're sleeping in unfamiliar places, that a portion of it stays kind of awake. It's like a protection mode.
Sounds like a good survival mechanism, doesn't it?
Yeah,
you're sleeping in unfamiliar territory. Maybe you might not want to sleep so deeply.
And that explains, like, for myself, and I think you've said too, like sleeping in hotels, I sleep like a bag of shit. And
no matter how nice, though, no matter how nice or how tired,
doesn't matter. Yeah, and I really do. And you're staying at company's house or something, doesn't matter. I'm not a good sleeper. And what happened, and I believe that, because I had to go, because a man of my thinness obviously couldn't possibly have sleep apnea, but my doctor seemed to think that, and my wife, yeah, you fat bastard, you better go get checked out. Anyway, so I had to do a sleep test, and like I told you, it got hooked up to all these machines or diodes and what have you, and tried to sleep, and I couldn't sleep. I spent the whole night just what I felt like staring at the door, just staring at there's a camera on you, so I'm worried about getting a nocturnal boner or something weird. How embarrassing is that? I was a much younger man. Those things don't happen anymore. If I got one of those, I'd be like, yeah, buddy. For you. Anyway, but I ended up, that morning getting out of bed and going, because the session was over, and I went to the girl who was doing the taking the probes off you and all that jazz, and I said, I don't think I slept. I'm pretty certain I was wide awake most of the evening, and like, oh no, you were asleep. Like within 15 minutes you hit REM sleep. And I was, oh, okay.
Did you wake up refreshed at all, or just you felt like a bag of? You felt like
I felt like a bag of ass, like a sack of hammers. Yeah, and she's like, she actually shows me the printout, and you can kind of see where. She said, you must have been tired. I'm like, well, I'd worked all day, and
and she's like, this is your nocturnal boner right here. See where the spike is?
Like, hey, oh yeah, and this is for the internet. Yeah,
this is for fellow there. That's why the video is strictly for the internet.
Yeah, this will give everyone a good laugh. Don't worry, I'll show that to them. But yeah, no, she's like, oh no, you had and you were asleep within 15 minutes. I'm like, and I was asleep all night, and she's like, oh yeah, I even checked on you, and she goes, I check on all, like, kind of do a room check, and you were snoring. And I'm like, and then to this day, I would put money on that I didn't sleep.
The guard said the same thing about Jeffrey Epstein. They checked on him, made sure he was,
like Clinton went in there.
The Clintons, okay. He was on camera too.
Right? The Clintons, Hillary with her fucking purse. With a hammer. Oh yeah, we're gonna let both Clintons in to see you.
They're friends. They said they were friends.
They said they're buddies. Yeah, the Clintons are like, listen, Epstein, here's what you're gonna do. Yeah, you're gonna take it like a man, or you're not gonna like it when you get out. Yeah. Anyway, that's a whole other of
That's a future episode, perhaps.
That could be Jeffrey Epstein. Oh my God, that's speaking of rabbit holes. Yeah, so Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, future podcast for sure. We'll definitely. We'd love to get into that.
Oh God, that sounds like a twisty tale of terror.
Everything. It's got everything. It's got all the popular ones.
All the popular ones. So anyway. On the subject of podcast, this one. So some background why we picked this one.
Yeah.
So we were doing a sync session with. Yeah, that's my hope.
Oh, you're trying to, but I'm interrupting. I can see that
you're being very interruptive, and we're gonna have to do some editing. I love editing. I don't have to do it.
It's my favorite thing ever.
So what happened was in episode 2, we had Gary from Unfrequented World. Yeah, Gary from Unfrequented World. We do a sync session before the Sasquatch episode.
Yes. And
somehow we got talking about the paranormal, probably because Bigfoot doesn't exist and is a figment of everybody's imagination.
Whoa.
That's what it says on the internet. I'm just repeating what the internet says.
There is nothing on the internet. So actually, it says quite the contrary. But anyway, continue with your story.
So we got talking, and I said, yeah, I had an encounter. I said, I encountered something like some guy, and I said, I used the term man in a hat. And he goes, that's a thing. I said, what do you mean that's a thing?
Yeah.
Look it up.
And he was really excited too.
Well, yeah, because so this is where all plays into the consistency. So my close encounter, it would have been a couple of years ago. So it's not like I was a child and it was before COVID. So I didn't have the stressors of COVID.
Right.
But it would have been, say early morning, like 2:00 ish.
That is really early morning.
Yeah. Well,
that's more, witching hour.
I go to bed around 8, 9 o'clock because I get up at 5. So,
I guess for you, for me, I'm like, you fucking wake me up at 2 a.m. It's fighting right there.
You're just going to bed.
I'm like, Jesus.
But what happened was, so 2:00 a.m, I wake up. Okay. And I look, and I'm jumping to my feet at this point, which is not the first time I've done this. Because I've often gotten up in the middle of the night and jumped to my feet, some element of that sleep-wake confusion. And that generally wakes Melissa up. And it did this time too. I jumped to my feet because what I saw in the doorway was I saw a tall, dark figure with a hat standing in the doorway. So I jumped to my feet. And again, as we talked previously, the whole intruder mentality, right? So I'm thinking,
obviously,
half asleep. I'm thinking some crazy. That's not Melissa because Melissa's there and she's not 7 feet tall. So okay, so I'm jumping out of bed and I keep a club beside my bed. So I scoop it up and I'm basically moving towards it. Okay.
Yeah.
And with each step, it gets harder and harder. So I get to a point where I actually come to a dead stop before I reach it. So I'm moving, but then I can't move any further. And I remember that paralysis, that sense of being stuck. And my heart was racing. Like I was afraid.
I would hope so. And especially, so you were standing when you were paralyzed. That's a different version of what, because obviously there's one thing of being I'm laying in bed, which I'm not really using my muscles to begin with, and I'm kind of stuck in fear. And then there's walking, or moving.
Yeah, to say I was running would be a bit of an overstatement, but jumped to my feet and I got maybe 3-4 steps towards.
Yeah.
And I couldn't move forward.
Do you think your brain was processing what the fuck is this? And should I move forward? Almost like a
There was definitely a growing sense of terror. So what I felt when I got up versus what I felt when I started to approach, two different things. When I got up, there was shit, somebody's in the door frame. I better go deal with them, and that adrenaline from that.
Right.
But it kind of swapped over to terror as I got closer. And Melissa sees this and she's wondering what the hell's going on with me. And I say to her, the man in the hat, he can't get through the doorway. And I remember sort of turning over to her and telling her that.
And she
when I looked back,
too.
She didn't see anything. I looked back and he was gone. Wow. And then I could move again.
It's crazy, man.
So,
and it was it was gone that quick. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like the moment it's one of those things that the moment I stopped focusing on it and turned to tell Melissa this, and again, the man in the hat, he can't get through the door. And I don't know if I was telling her he can't get through the door because again, he had this like almost like a Puritan's hat. It was like flat topped, right? Had the more the Victorian sort of Jack the Ripper kind of, hooded like a collared cloak sort of, not cloak.
And you couldn't make out any features. There was nothing no eyes, no.
He was illuminated at the back by the lights in the hall. That was it. Like there was no glowing eyes, no nothing. I just knew
you couldn't see through him. You couldn't see through
at all.
Wow.
Like that's how I knew the shape was this man shape with a hat was there.
Right.
So
that would be to me. I think that would be quite frightening.
It was very.
It's probably not what most men would do.
I'm just going to beat it with a stick. That is totally manly. Come on,
No, I know, but I mean,
didn't make it much further.
Yeah, but when you were paralyzed,
okay, he ran from me.
He's like, I saw that stick. I know what that guy. He was gonna give me that stick. He was
right.
And do you feel like now you said you've had other experiences too? So
I'm a firm believer that when you're in that state between sleeping and waking, that middle ground, you are your most receptive to everything. So your perceptions are completely different and and completely different. I've seen dead pets. Not that they're dead. I've seen pets that are dead, but not dead. Does that make sense? Like I've seen
they were your pets.
They were my pets. I didn't see like zombie pets walking down the hallway. Right.
Well, no, that's good.
And it wouldn't be the first time I've woken up confused.
about shadowed rabbits.
Yeah. Right? So my wife has buried 2 rabbits so far. Well, 3 if you count Kelly, but let's just focus on Smokey and Sidey. Oh, yeah. And this would have happened actually probably a couple months ago. I got up and I'm like, the rabbits are loose. I was like, what are you talking about? I said, they're in the hall. I can see them running in the hall. And she starts asking me to explain. Well, she says, no, they're still downstairs. And it's that moment of confusion when I'm sort of full income. She'll have conversations with me when I'm in that state.
Right. Oh,
yeah.
She's searching.
She's not searching. I think she's screwing with me by going off and having this conversation.
March 13th. Were you really at Shane's house?
Really at Shane's? Do you really do a podcast with Phil?
Is that real? Is that even a
hidden cameras anywhere?
Maybe. Can't blame her. I mean, we used to fuck with you all the time. Growing up, you used to be dead to the world.
Yes, and it's funny that I would be such a deep sleeper, and Melissa said this too, except when I'm not. Like when I do stuff like this, she's like, you're a deep sleeper, and then all of a sudden you're jumping to your feet and running into the hallway.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not literally crazy, but it's certainly interesting.
I'm sure there's something if you were to look deep into the DSMV 4 or 5, whatever the.
Are they at 5 already?
I think they are. They must be. They were at 4 when I was in university, and that was 95. So they must have added some new ones in. Probably. And actually updated it to take stuff out. They're probably at 6, actually.
Could be. They're probably adding to the mental health names as we speak.
And taking some things away. Like they used to have some things that were considered mental
menstrual
illness.
cycle. Menstrual cycles was considered a mental illness. Yeah.
Hysteria. That's where it comes from. That's where hysterectomy comes from.
Yeah. So
how
we have changed.
How we've changed. My old house back in Redbridge, I remember often I would see. So I would sleep with a blind on just to sleep better.
Yeah, and I told you a story that I never told anyone. Was that I was sleeping at your house, and this is fucking honest to goodness truth, man. And I was sleeping over. We grew up together, so this isn't anything absurd. Or, not that there's anything wrong with two men loving each other, but this was not that kind of sleepover. We were children.
Phil was
Get
on
your
top.
mind out of the gutter.
He was on the top bunk.
That's right. Well, there's nothing. You sick fucks out there. Anyway, I was on the top bunk, and it was in the middle of the night. Okay, but there was light, so I don't know if it was what time it was, but you had a AFC fucking piggy bank.
I have no idea. I had two of them, a red and a white one.
Yeah,
I have no
it was
idea
the white one.
Whose brilliant idea it was to take Colonel Sanders and turn him into a piggy bank, because I guess he was such an icon.
Dude, this thing, and I swear to God, if I believed in God, it would probably help. But it winked at me. It went. And I did not have any drugs or booze or any other psychotic episode that I'm aware of happening. And I, to this day, I believe that. Yeah, that fucking thing winked at me. I hope you destroyed that. I hope that is not still in that house.
Could be. I mean, I think the house, somebody apparently crawled under it and stole the copper piping. So maybe they took the KFC because it would have had money in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope it's.
I make a point now to close the door to our bedroom, by the way. So I keep the door closed in the bedroom to avoid me seeing stuff in the hallway.
Well, that's probably a good thing. Big lock on it.
There need to be a lock. Although I did consider briefly having a lock to put on it, saying, "Okay, you know what? Let's make this a panic room."
Yeah, it's not like like you don't have children, right?
Nope.
You have pets, but you don't have children. So like if you have children, you kind of go, okay, well, I don't want to really lock my door.
Or do you?
Or
do you, Phil?
You want to make sure that you're accessible and all that good stuff. But yeah, if it was just me and why not? I'd put a fucking thick oak door on there with some big bolt action for sure. Panic room.
Yep.
Guns,
panic room.
Gun cabinet.
Food supply.
Yes.
Emergency ladder at the back.
For sure.
Flare gun. I don't know. Whatever you'd add to it.
Why not? Bulletproof vest. I don't know if you can get your hands on that. Whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Do you believe in ghosts?
So this is part of the thing, right?
Yeah.
I do believe there are more things that we understand out there than what we understand now.
For sure.
And there's too many cases of people saying things, and that's what kills me about this Hatman thing is the consistency of everything. Yeah. Right? The consistency that people, the shape, bed, like all this stuff, it just seems too coincidental. Like the story, and it had Gary not mentioned to me that this is a thing, I would have never have made that connection.
And you know what? Until you mentioned it again, I never thought of it again until you said Hatman, and I was like, what's he talking about? Hatman, do a podcast on Hatman. And then you told me about Gary, and then I'm like, oh, then it all kind of came back. Where you're like, oh,
well, this was a revenge podcast for you making me do the Montauk project. So this was a revenge podcast.
Well, this is way better than that. That was fucking horrific. Not that, hey, like and subscribe. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, it's a train wreck, and train wrecks are always fun to watch.
It was fun. It was okay. Let's clarify. It was fun to do because we were more poking fun, not intentionally, but it was difficult to. All right, let's not get off track. We're down a rabbit hole. God damn it.
That rabbit hole, correct.
Yeah. The reason I ask is that, there's a large portion of the population that do believe in ghosts. I'm on the fence in a way, even though I've seen something wink at me. I'm like, I'm not opposed to the idea. I don't know. I was just really fucking tired. But I did always have a weird feeling in your house. Not that I'd ever mentioned that probably to you or anyone else, and my house. I had a very old house. We kind of grew up in similar. Your house was nicer than my house.
Also had a second floor. You had a basement, but no upstairs.
Oh, the basement was creepy.
Yeah, yours was more like the Cthulhu dungeon.
Dude, that part.
Mine was a crawl space, buddy. Guess who had to crawl under there to fix the furnace? This guy.
Yeah, I know. Remember, I helped you pull a deer out of your well.
Yes, that's a problem with when you have a dug well, it is usually wide in diameter, and if you don't get a concrete cap for it,
Yeah, things fall in it.
Things fall in it. Yeah,
it was horrific. I still have nightmares.
And only so much bleach. You can use several bottles of bleach, and it's not going to get rid of the
Your
deer.
water always had a weird smell. I never drank your water.
I didn't drink it either.
Oh, good. Yeah, hopefully none of you drank your water. But yeah, no, and I still do get that feeling in some places. Whether it's just that it's a creepy spot or.
So one of the things they talk about from the paranormal supernatural angle is the whole idea that any place where children have been raised because of, and particularly for long periods of time, the emotional spectrum they go through attract poltergeists, right? They're drawn to these because of they're kind of like empathic vampires, I guess.
Yeah.
Or they're curious. Either way, they're drawn.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I don't feel it here in my house, but my house is not like the house I grew up in, where it's a dirt floor in the basement and creepy and dark, unfinished places, and go down and get some wood. Oh God, no, I don't want to.
I remember having to work in the pump box. Dad would always send me down whenever the water line would freeze, and I'd be sitting there with the plumber trying to unthaw the pump, and I'd be up to my knees and we're at the house was here, and there was the well was down here, so it was just awful.
Oh yeah.
That probably did not help with attracting poltergeists because of the misery I was suffering while doing that.
Yeah. Oh, we buried a lot of dogs too.
That's true. It's a veritable pet cemetery, which is unfortunate given the fact that they would get away and we lived right by a highway.
Yeah. And they would get hit on the road.
Yeah,
it was sad. And then you and I would be
tasked with
quite a few times, helped you with burying animals.
One with the bag, one with the shovel.
I always did the shovel. I don't know why. This is bigger, I guess. Quicker. I was faster with the shovel. I buried. Oh my God. Growing up in the country. Yeah.
But I certainly, to answer your question, yes, I believe in the paranormal and supernatural, but I believe in it from a similar to the Hatman experience. I know what I saw, but I don't know what I saw. So I don't know what you would call it. The paranormal, supernatural. I believe there are things we do not understand.
I would have to agree. And I think that's part of the fun, right? Where we look at things and we go, oh, and there are people that tell stories and you kind of go, yeah, of course you saw Hatman. Right. Or then you have quite a few people, and even on our Instagram, there was someone whom I know, which it really surprised me, who said, yeah, I've seen, and I said that, if you want to discuss that, which they didn't, which is fine. But it's a very no nonsense individual, right? And
unlike us, who are full nonsense individuals.
No, and that's where I think even when we talked before, it depends where the source of the information. It's similar to, you hear about someone who saw Bigfoot, and then you go, oh yeah, of course you saw Bigfoot. Right.
Yeah, because they just saw baby Jesus and Elvis the other day.
Right. And then you see someone who's like, man, I don't know what the fuck I saw, but it was this. And I'm really having a hard time with this because I know it sounds crazy, and then you kind of go, oh, okay, well, this guy he saw something, we just don't know what it is. Yeah, there's those people. Then those are the people we search for, right? Those are the people we want to hear from.
That's right. If you have a story and you would like to tell us about it, by all means, shoot us an email at info, right? At orderedchaos.ca.
That is correct. Or drop us a line at Instagram.
We
Facebook.
Recently got an email from I think Joe Miller. His story was that apparently our domain is about to expire and we need to send him money.
Oh, right, of course.
And he's tried numerous times to reach us on the phone.
Oh, good, Joe.
This is good, and he had a link for me to click on, which took to a .ga address, wherever the hell that is.
He obviously doesn't know who he's emailing. No,
Hey,
we won't tell poor Joe what you do
poor
for a
Joe.
living.
Oh, poor Joe.
Poor Joe. Yeah, he's probably from Somalia or some other little country.
Toronto.
I'm from Toronto. Yeah. I don't know. I hope I don't ever see Hatman. Ever.
I haven't seen Hatman recently. Like I said, I make a point to close the door, sleep with a blind on. That helps.
Yeah, is it a reoccurring thing though with these people? Because I didn't see that. I didn't see what
the only thing I've heard is that some people said they saw the Hatman as children, and then therefore later on in life. I digress. Some people have said they've seen the Hatman as children and then see him again as adults.
Okay. Yes, your light just changed.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Maybe just wiggling I'm using my phone as a webcam, folks, because the one I bought from Staples was not any better than my phone.
No. Yeah. You look great.
Thanks, Phil. You look great too, buddy.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
Okay, so to recap, Hatman, terrifying experience, personal experience, consistent, could be an alien, interdimensional, maybe a shadow person, could be just sleep paralysis. Who knows? You be the judge.
Well, you're still alive, so it's not death. Maybe rule that one out. Maybe.
No, this is true. This is true.
We'll start on our crazy board. Yes.
I've got one done up.
I know. I saw it. It looks great. It looks great. And that's another thing, folks. If you want to visit us at orderchaos.ca, we have all sorts of little tidbits there, including crazy boards that Corey works very hard on.
Well, a lot of them are the episode notes show up there. So
episode notes that he does more than I do.
You do episode notes, Phil. You just do them by hand. So there's no clickable links. So it's not easy to put up, and you never send them to me. So
you're right. I'm old school, and I'm an OG, or just old, whatever. Anyway,
we're the same damn age, buddy.
We are. I'm older than you, by the way.
Okay, by like what, 3 months, 4 months?
Yeah. Next episode. Are you excited?
Oh, I'm all on tether hooks here, Phil. Ooh, a quiver.
So we're going to be doing Princess Diana, murder or mishap.
What do you think? I like that, murder or mishap.
Because, well, that's how it goes. There's the conspiracies are plenty. There are, and I had no idea. I really thought that it was pretty cut and dry. She drove into a pillar with her bodyguard and her lover and her driver and died. I had no idea. There's quite a story behind this. So that
anytime anybody famous dies, even when it's clear cut that they're dead.
I'm excited. The royal family is quite interesting. Yes, they're very what's the word? Secretive. Inbred. Oh yes, definitely that one.
Well, that's the blue ones, Charles.
Right? Oh my God. Whoa, he didn't get those ears by accident. He didn't even grow into them. I mean, seriously. So yeah, that's next week's episode. So hopefully you can tune in. Don't forget, like and subscribe if you like this content. Tell us about it.
Also, if you have suggestions for future podcasts, by all means.
Absolutely. Leave it. And if you do have a suggestion and we use it, we will throw out your name, throw a little party. I don't know. Lots of good stuff. Maybe give you
somebody suggest Princess Di, or was that?
There was actually there was. That's not why I did it though. Huh. Yeah. But there was.
I think you did it because of Meghan and Harry.
Meghan Markle and Harry, and then I kind of got interested in the topic, and then someone had left because I kind of decided I wanted to do this like last week, or 2 weeks ago. But yeah, someone did suggest, and I will throw out their name on the next or on that podcast.
Not to be confused with throwing up their name.
Do not throw up. No, nobody wants to see that. No one has time for that. That's disgusting. All right. Well, I'm Phil. This is my co-host Corey, And we are ordered chaos. And we will see you next time here on the OC.
Take care, folks.
Have a good one.